The Labour Party's constituency number 4 office in Old Road, opposition says it's politically motivated, and St. Kitts nationals receive UVI scholarships. Regionally, Bujabanton thrills Dominica but leaves patrons with a sour taste. Internationally, UK's December election plan clears first hurdle. And in sports, Leeward Islands Hurricanes names squad for regional tournament. We'll add the details to these and other stories after this short break.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, Vaughan.
Welcome back, and now for the national news. An early morning fire occurred at the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party SKNLP's constituency number 4 office in Old Road, St. Kitts on Monday, October 28th. The VON Newsline spoke with Fire Chief Mr. Everett Ogaro, who provided this information.
At around 4:15, the Centerpoint unit of the St. Kitts Nevis Fire and Rescue Services responded to a report of a fire in Old Road. On arrival at the scene, the front section of a building located on the main road in Old Road completely engulfed in flames. The men quickly went into action and extinguished the fire. The extinguishing operation took about 30 to 35 minutes. Further investigations revealed that the section of the building that was burned was occupied by Mr. Steve Wentford and was used as a constituency office for number 4. The front section of the building, everything in that section, which was used as an office by Mr. Wentford, was completely destroyed in the fire. No injuries were sustained. An investigation into the cause of the fire will be undertaken.
That he cannot determine if it was arson related.
Not at this moment. The investigation itself would reveal those. However, at this point, I really can't say whether it is signs that the fire, the cause of the fire was electrical or whether arson it was really the cause of that fire. So we will wait on the outcomes of the investigation in order to determine this.
I know it was arson. There was no animal.
Fire Chief Mr. Everett Ogaro. Meanwhile, the VON Newsline also spoke with SKNLP's candidate for constituency number 4, His Excellency Steve Wensford.
I know it was arson. There was evidence of materials that were used to set the place afire. There was flammable liquid, there were matches, etc. at the scene. So it's only for the police now to make a statement as to what was their conclusion. Maybe this was a stunt they tried, but on the contrary, it will only make my result much more focused. There were a series of events that led to the finding of the material I mentioned earlier. The forensic were on the scene, and then they sent the arson unit. The arson unit came, and the arson unit found whatever material they found. The way the building was burned, in terms of the window section, one could have seen that half of the window was burned, the other part was not burned, but the whole window was blown out. So those are areas that one would look at to see whether there was any incidents of outright intrusion.
Mr. Wensford said that the fire incident was politically motivated. As we approach the general elections, which are constituency due by early 2020.
There is no animosity between myself and anyone. So the only conclusion I could have drawn, really, was that it was politically motivated. Political tribalism has taken over St. Kitts, and we need to control political tribalism. Whether it was directed or not directed, we need to control it. And it is the constituency office of the candidate who is in opposition. And so the only reason that I can think of why the person burned the building was because of political reasons. I have been through the constituency. I have received favorable responses from many of the constituents. So I know for sure I am on my way to a victory. So doing whatever was done will not derail me in any way. In fact, I am more resolved in my quest to ensure that this seat, number 4, is returned to the Labour Party in the next election.
SKNLP's candidate for constituency number 4, His Excellency Steve Wentford. Rensford. In related news, following claims of arson by the St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party (SKNLP) following a fire at their constituency number 4 office, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis says the claims are false and that the opposition is seeking to gain momentum as elections approach. The Prime Minister says that the authorities should be allowed to conduct their investigations before conclusions are made.
I don't really want to comment on the specifics of the fire, because that really is a matter for the police and the fire department to speak to. And unless it be drawn into the political arena, which I wouldn't want, any fire at any place to be construed in that context, I will prefer we let the professional people, in this case the Commissioner of Police or his aside, the fire chief or his aside, speak on the matter of the fire. There were fires in Nevis, they dealt with them in a professional way. And I'm yet to hear anyone say that our security forces have not done their work professionally when it comes to these matters. And that is why I want to refrain from getting involved in a to and fro that just politicize what should be an unfortunate event.
Dr. Harris is also condemning any acts of violence that may come into play in the Twin Island nation.
Speaking up for the movement, we certainly will not want to be part of any activity in which violence or any other irregular and unlawful activities become part of the culture. So we will avoid that at all costs, and we will condemn every effort by anyone to introduce that in the party politics.
The Honorable Timothy Harris. Two nationals of St. Kitts and Nevis were among 4 students at the University of the Virgin Islands who were recently awarded scholarships by the National Association of Historically Black Colleges and Universities, Title III Administrators Incorporated, the St. John Source and VI Consortium report from a news release. The two are Jovancia Matthew and Renelle Agard. Jovancia Matthew is currently majoring in biology and minoring in health sciences, while Agard, also a native of St. Kitts, is currently pursuing a Bachelor of Business Administration with a concentration in management. Matthew was awarded the 1,000 Regional Scholarship, while Agard was awarded $500. The other 2 scholarship awardees were Kelvina Salters and Leslie Ann Samuels, who were each awarded $500. UVI has been participating in this scholarship program since 2013. Since 1968, the U.S. Education Department implemented a Title III Part B for the purpose of strengthening HBCUs. Financial assistance is provided to these institutions in order to assist in establishing or strengthening their physical plans, financial management, academic resource, and endowments. Additionally, funds are allocated for the improvement of campus facilities, education or financial information, designed to improve the financial literacy and economic literacy of the students or the students' families. In police news, a traffic incident at the White Gate area in St. Kitts is being investigated. A communique from the police force says the incident occurred close to 8 a.m. on Sunday, October 27th, and involved a pedestrian and motor jeep G150, which is owned by the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force and was being driven by Officer Marlon Raymond. The circumstances are that G-150 was traveling from St. Paul's to Dieppe Bay along the road running through the White Gate area when the vehicle in front stopped suddenly. The officer then lost control of the motor jeep and collided with Tyreek Brown of St. Paul's, who was walking along the grass on the side of the road, then collided with a tree. Officer Raymond and Brown were taken to the Pogson Medical Center in Sandy Point and the JNF Hospital, respectively. Brown sustained a number of injuries, including a broken arm. He is warded in stable condition. Officer Raymond was treated for his injuries and then discharged. A national of St. Kitts is reported to have been killed in St. Martin on Monday, 28 October 2019. The incident is reported to have occurred in Middle Region, St. Martin, at about 4:45 p.m. The national, whose only name given is Tyreek, aka Tom Tom or Tommy Lee, is a resident of Monkey Hill. According to a report by the Daily Herald in St. Martin, police in a statement said that Tyreek was shot in the vicinity of Samuel's Bakery along with another male victim. A report of the incident from the Daily Herald states that when the officers arrived on the scene, the police patrol found an unknown male bleeding from gunshot wounds and was not showing any signs of life. The media site further added that there were 2 other male victims with gunshot wounds who were in very critical condition. They were treated by ambulance personnel on the scene before being rushed to the St. Martin Medical Center. The Herald added that detectives later received information, that one of the victims who had been transported died of his wounds in the St. Martin Medical Center. The 2019 Atlantic hurricane season is coming to an end, with 1 month of the season remaining. The VON Newsline spoke to the director of the Nevis Disaster Management Department, NDMD, Mr. Brian Dyer, about the outlook of the current state of the season.
The Atlantic is relatively quiet at this time. There is just a system to the North Atlantic that is providing some long wave that you have seen in the forecast. There is a caution in regards to some wave activity that is being generated from the system that is to the north of the islands. Apart from that, the Atlantic is relatively quiet. However, we still would advise persons that we have another 30 days to the end of November. That's the official end of the hurricane season. So we still ask persons to be cautious and to ensure they're in a state of preparedness and readiness in the event of any activity generating a short notice.
At the start of the season in June, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, forecast the season to have 9 to 15 named storms, 4 to 8 of which could become hurricanes, including 2 to 4 major hurricanes, categories 3, 4, or 5. With the predicted forecast, this is a normal trend as the season comes to a close.
Each year, the mechanism that comprise the generation of tropical systems changes. So we have to respect what the Atlantic produces or the Caribbean Sea produces and plan accordingly. There are several other atmospheric conditions that prevail that also had an impact with regards to the generation of these tropical systems.
Director of NDMD, Mr. Brian Dyer. And finally, in our national news segment, the St. Kitts and Nevis and the Republic of the Marshall Islands signed a visa waiver agreement during a signing ceremony on Saturday, October 26th in the Republic of China, Taiwan, and became the latest country to sign a visa waiver agreement with the Federation. The agreement was signed between the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Republic of the Marshall Islands, the Honorable John Silk, and Ambassador of St. Kitts and Nevis to the Republic of China, Taiwan, Ms. Jasmine Huggins. In his remarks, Foreign Minister Silk stated, "Through this arrangement, more opportunities will open up for both of our countries to work together through increased people-to-people exchanges with a view of cultivating enhanced diplomatic relations." Ambassador Huggins mentioned that although separated by distance, St. Kitts and Nevis and the Marshall Islands are brought closer together with the signing of this agreement. Minister Silk also expressed hope that both countries would speak for Taiwan in the international fora, including the specialized agencies of the United Nations such as ICAO and WHO. The Marshall Islands are a sprawling chain of volcanic island and coral atolls in the Central Pacific Ocean between Hawaii and the Philippines. That's it for the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vonradio.com or check us out on our Facebook at Von Radio or our Von Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. News from across the region is next.
Life can be more fulfilling when we take the time out to smell the roses. And that's why your friends and family at the Bank of Nevis are experts at picking the flowers that best describe you. Whether you're planning to treat yourself after a long work week or finally getting around to that closet update, you deserve all the special things that life has to offer, and the Bond Visa card is here to help you achieve it. With just a swipe, you can turn a last-minute lunch date with friends and family into something worth remembering, with memories that will last a lifetime. Pampering yourself just got a whole lot easier, and after all, you deserve every refreshing moment of it. The ability to make your travel arrangements at your own convenience, whether by sea or by air, now rests within the palm of your hand. With a single swipe, the Bond Visa card can put a world of difference between life and truly living, whereas the only limit you may have is your own imagination. Apply today. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life.
Welcome back, and now for the regional news. Dancehall star Buju Banton continued his Long Walk to Freedom tour in Dominica last Saturday with a performance at the country's 21st annual World Creole Music Festival. The Gargamel gave the patrons gathered at Windsor Park's Sports Stadium in the capital of Roseau, which many are saying was the highlight of the festival, dropping the tracks he has been known for throughout his nearly 30-year career. However, according to the Jamaica Observer, local media entities were left with a sour taste after the artist failed to grant any interviews and were concerned at the level of security during his visit. Reports out of Dominica state that members of the media were not pleased with the stipulations laid down by the artist and his team, but were told that they had to respect the security measures associated with the artiste. This included the fact that the media had to vacate the press pit after he performed his first 3 songs. The country's Director of Tourism, Colin Piper, explained that certain artists have certain criteria, so as a part of their agreement to perform, you either accept those criteria or you don't. He added that when he saw the documents related to the artists performing in Dominica, they are not specific to the World Creole Music Festival, they are specific to Buju Banton as an artist and entertainer. Since his release from a U.S. prison in December last year, where he served time on drug charges, Buju Banton has not given any media interviews. The United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, the European Union, EU, and the UN Migration Agency, IOM, in a joint statement have called for countries in Latin America and the Caribbean to show solidarity towards Venezuelans, with around 80% of those who left sheltering in the region. The mass exodus is in response to Venezuela's steep economic decline under President Nicolas Maduro, which led the oil-rich country into recession beginning in 2014, prompting record-breaking inflation and thus shortages in food, access to health services, and other basic needs. Since 2014, there has been an 8,000% increase in the number of Venezuelans seeking refugee status around the world, according to UNHCR. High Representative and Vice President of the European Commission, Federica Mogherini, said that when 4.5 million people on the move, more action is needed, and the EU and partners will keep acting. UNHCR reports that hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans remain without any documentation or permission to stay regularly in nearby countries, leaving them lacking access to basic rights. IOM's Director General Antonio Vitorino said the international community, including donors, cooperation agencies, and the private sector, need to double down to ensure help arrives for most vulnerable and those supporting them. Guyana's President David Granger has put to rest concerns stalled talks between a Partnership for National Unity, APNU, and its coalition partner, the Alliance for Change, AFC, noting that discussions between the two are taking place every week, Caribbean360.com says. Last week, talks between the coalition partners reportedly collapsed after the two parties could not agree on the way forward, with the AFC insisting that its nominee, Ramhathan should be chosen, while the president said he was looking to other potential candidates from within his party. The AFC chairman, Raphael Trotman, said the party's National Executive Committee would decide early next month whether the AFC would contest the next general elections jointly with the APNU or go it alone. However, appearing as a guest on an Inside Source podcast on Sunday, Mr. Granger insisted the coalition remains strong and will be heading to the March 2nd, 2020 elections together. He said both partners have appointed teams that are examining a three-stage process to guide them as they prepare for the 2020 elections. Granger said he is not dealing with the personalities at this stage, but that he is satisfied with the performance of incumbent Prime Minister Moses Nakamutu over the last 4 years. That's it for our regional news segment. International news is up next. Welcome back, and now for the international news. UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson, on December 12th election plan, has cleared its first Commons hurdle as MPs back it without a vote. They will continue to debate and vote later on amendments, including a Labour proposal to change the date to December 9th. Efforts by opposition MPs to lower the voting age to 16 and allow EU nationals to take part have failed. Proposed changes to the Prime Minister's early election bill to extend voting rights were not selected for debate by the Deputy Speaker, despite enjoying cross-party support. Here is Mr. Johnson addressing the House of Commons.
I think that this delay is becoming seriously damaging to the national interest, because families can't plan, businesses can't plan, and the climate of uncertainty is not only corroding trust in politics, but is beginning to hold everybody back from making vital everyday decisions.
Lebanon's Prime Minister Saad Hariri has said he's resigning amid protests that have gripped the country for the last 2 weeks. Mr. Hariri said Lebanon had reached a deadlock and needed a shock to break the crisis. The protest began against now scrapped plans to tax WhatsApp calls, but quickly widened to target political corruption and economic turmoil. In a televised address, Mr. Hariri said he would tender his resignation and that of the government to Mr. Michael Aoun. The BBC's Sebastian Utcher reports.
In a live televised address, Saad Hariri said he'd reached a dead end and a shock was needed to try to resolve the crisis. He called on all political parties to recognise their responsibility to protect Lebanon. There were cheers among the protesters as Mr. Hariri spoke, but his resignation doesn't meet their demands, which is for a transformation of a political system away from corrupt and sectarian interests. The dangers in the current situation were underlined as supporters of the Shia movements Hezbollah and Amal tried to break up demonstrations in the centre of Beirut. They broke and dismantled tents belonging to the protesters before the Lebanese army was able to intervene.
The UK looks set for a December general election after Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn announced his party was ready to fight the most radical campaign ever. Mr. Corbyn said his condition of taking a no-Brexit deal off the table had now been met after the EU agreed to extend the deadline to January 31st, 2020. Prime Minister Boris Johnson can only hold an election with the support of MPs who have blocked it 3 times. Mr. Corbyn said that with Brexit delayed until the end of January, the immediate threat of leaving without a deal had been removed.
We always said we wanted an election, we do want an election, but we wanted no deal to be taken off the table. We've now had confirmation from all 28 EU member states that no deal is off the table, so we're going to go out there with the biggest campaign this party has ever mounted, totally united, totally determined.
Meanwhile, more from the BBC's Rob Watson.
This is one of those genuine, real historic landmark developments in the 3.5-year political crisis that is the Brexit process, because this means definitively we are going to have an early general election before Christmas. What's changed for the opposition Labour Party is this idea that it's just impossible any longer to resist an election, that some of the smaller opposition parties have gone along with it, and that what they had asked for, which was to make sure that there wasn't going to be an imminent no-deal Brexit, well, that has been handled by the European Union saying, OK, we're going to extend the Brexit process until the end of January.
That's it for the international news segment. Sports is up next.
Seeking to upgrade or renovate your business or home office space? Then this information is just for you. TDC is having a massive furniture sale. Yes, the prices have been slashed. Save up to 20, 30, 40, 60, no, 70. Save up to 75% off office furniture. Visit our office furniture showrooms today in St. Kitts and Nevis. See stores for details. Offer good while stocks last.
Welcome back, and now into sports. In cricket, West Indies test player from Anguilla, Jamar Hamilton, will captain the Leeward Islands Hurricanes for the Colonial Medical Super 50 Cup 2019. Leeward Islands Hurricane squad for the CWI Colonial Medical Insurance Super 50 Cup 2019 comprises of Jamar Hamilton, captain of Anguilla, Mockton Hodge from Anguilla, Yannick Leonard from Anguilla, Casey Carty from Anguilla, Devon Thomas from Antigua and Barbuda, Rakeem Cornwall from Antigua and Barbuda, Kezron Archibald from Nevis, Kyron Powell from Nevis, Jason Campbell from Nevis, Shino Berridge from St. Kitts, Jeremiah Lewis, St. Kitts, Akeem Saunders, St. Kitts, Terrence Ward, St. Kitts, Amir Jangu, Trinidad and Tobago. Reserves are Jacques Taylor, St. Kitts, Telba Walters, Anguilla, Ross Powell, Nevis, and Quinton Botsween, Montserrat. Group A matches will begin on Wednesday, November 6th, and will take place every day either at Warner Park or Connery Sports Complex in St. Kitts. And Group B matches start on Thursday, November 7th, with matches taking place at Queen's Park Oval and the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Trinidad. Still in cricket, Bangladesh Test captain Shakib Al Hassan has been given a 2-year ban for failing to report corrupt approaches. The 32-year-old accepted the three charges relating to requests for inside information for betting purposes. The approaches came during an international tri-series, also involving Sri Lanka and Zimbabwe in January 2018, and that year's Indian Premier League. Shakib is the top all-rounder in the one-day international rankings and has played 333 matches for Bangladesh. That's it for sports. The weather is next. The weather tonight, partly cloudy to cloudy with a 40% or moderate chance of light showers. The weather tomorrow, partly cloudy with a 20% or slight chance of a light shower. Winds east-northeast at 8 to 14 knots or 15 to 28 kilometers per hour. Seas 1.5 to 1.8 meters or 4 to 6 feet. Sunrise tomorrow 6:08 a.m. Sunset tomorrow 5:41 p.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Tuesday, 29th October 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, fire at Labour Party's constituency number 4 office in Old Road, opposition says is politically motivated. And St. Kitts nationals receive UVI scholarships. Regionally, Buju Banton thrills Dominica but leaves patrons with a sour taste. Internationally, UK's December election plan clears first hurdle. And in sports, Leeward Island Hurricanes name squad for regional tournament. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Danielle Moore wishing you a pleasant evening.